Ever since I restored this 1973 Opel Manta way back when I was in college, I've been aware of a certain upgrade that was possible, and I've kind of been daydreaming about it ever since. It brings up a very important question.
If you double your carburetors, do you double your fun? Well, that's what I want to find out in this video. I recently picked up a pair of Weber DCOE carburetors and manifolds. I'm going to throw them on, try to figure out how to make them work, and hopefully have a lot of fun. Let's see what happens.
So what's the point of this upgrade? Well, aside from looking really cool and making a great sound on acceleration, there is a performance benefit. While the stock carburetor and intake has lots of twists and turns and restrictions, these side drafts provide the most direct path possible for air and fuel to get into each cylinder, so it should give me more horsepower and a more responsive feeling.
Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the stock setup on this car. The single downdraft carburetor, it's efficient, it's reliable, it's simple to work on, but there's an opportunity to spice this up a bit and have some more fun, so why not? But getting rid of the stock intake manifold and carb setup means we're going to be losing some vacuum connections, and we're going to have to modify a few different things, so let's talk about that. The first potential issue is that I'll be losing the distributor vacuum advance and retard.
The vacuum advance essentially makes the spark happen earlier when you're off the throttle, which is better for fuel efficiency and emissions. Unfortunately, the new carburetors don't have a connection for this.
The next potential issue, crankcase ventilation. This valve cover needs to breathe, and currently this big hose runs right into the air filter so the valve cover can breathe in filtered air. This small hose goes into the intake manifold to suck out the oil vapors and actually burn it in the engine. We're going to be losing those connections. Last but not least, fuel supply. I don't know if my stock mechanical fuel pump is going to provide enough volume to feed 2 carburetors, so I might have to install an electric pump, maybe even a pressure regulator, reroute lines, could be a whole thing. Oh, I almost forgot the brake booster. It has a big vacuum line that hooks up to the intake manifold. The DCOE manifolds actually do have a provision for the brake booster. However, that causes a potential problem because it's only drawing from one runner, so it's going to cause an uneven running condition potentially. So we'll see how much of an issue that is. So as you can tell, this isn't quite going to be as simple as just slapping these carbs on and connecting a fuel line and that's it. It's going to be a bit more complicated, but that being said, I kind of just want to slap these things on and see what they look like. Well, I can confirm that that does in fact look awesome. I still have many things to figure out, but this gives me some motivation.
The next day I couldn't help myself and attached a fuel line just to see what would happen.
Well, that was fun. We got to hear some noises. I don't know if I really learned anything by doing that, but I couldn't help it. I did learn that potentially they'll run off the mechanical fuel pump, so that'll be cool if I can get away with that, make this a bit easier. But in order to do this properly, I'm going to take these back off and actually go through, take them apart. I got a couple rebuild kits for them, make sure everything's happy inside. So one of the best and worst things about these carburetors is how customizable they are. You can change out every little part in here to dial it in perfectly to your car. The problem is that means there's a lot of different variables to consider, so it could get really confusing. For now, I'm going to leave all of that alone because these did come off of another Opel 1.9 liter engine, so hopefully things are in the right ballpark, but I guess we'll find out once the car is running. For now, I'm going to take these apart one at a time, rebuild them. It's my first time ever doing that, so I'm probably not going to do an in-depth how-to. There's better videos out there for that, but hopefully I'll get these cleaned up and ready to install properly. Okay, so fast forward, I've been cleaning this a bunch. I soaked it, I sprayed through all the passageways with brake clean. She's looking pretty clean. I've also been taking a closer look at all the calibrated parts inside, like the jets and all that stuff. And I've came to a realization. I don't think these carbs were ever customized for the Opel engine that they were on, because I was looking through this very helpful manual from Weber and looking up the specs of this carburetor. I was going through the list of components that it comes with from the factory, and everything matches perfectly. So I don't think these carbs have ever been customized for the Opel engine that they were on. And where it makes a difference is what size is the engine, what RPM do you plan to run at. All that stuff makes a big difference in what components you select. So this leaves me with a conundrum. Do I just run with this stuff, or do I try to buy all the components that the formula says should work for my engine and spend like $300 on all those components? Because each of these little parts really adds up. Well, I think for now I'm just gonna run it the way it is, see how it behaves, and go from there. I've been soaking the jets in a gnarly solvent so they're nice and cleaned out, ready to go back in. I'm just gonna start putting things back together as best I can, replacing all the seals and O-rings that I come across with the kit, and see how she gets along. And of course I need to reinstall the float on the bottom side of this and adjust it.
All the way hard, 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 all the way
Well, there you have it, everybody. One very unprofessionally rebuilt DCOE carburetor. I did find a couple things. The float level was way off, so I got that set much closer to what it should be. And that one idle mixture screw is missing the little retainer for the seal, so I need to get that. Other than that, it seemed to go fine. It's nice and clean. I eventually figured out where everything goes. So that's one down, one to go. So I've been in the cleaning process on the second carb and everything's going fine, but I did want to share one interesting thing I found. This auxiliary venturi, I believe it's called, was in completely crooked. So if you see that big divot, that's where the set screw is supposed to go. But right next to it is a little divot where somebody actually put the set screw, which means this was tilted from where it's supposed to be. And it's pretty important that it lines up with that hole right there, because that's the main fuel hole where it draws into here when you're under full throttle, and it goes in here. So if that's out of alignment, you're either getting no fuel or very little, and that's not working correctly. So that cylinder probably wasn't very happy. And just like that, both carbs are rebuilt. I'm definitely not a professional carb rebuilder, but I think it all went fine. Found a couple inconsistencies, so I'm glad I took the time to look at them. It's also a great way to learn more about how they work and how they go together, so now I feel better prepared to tune them. But before I slap these back on the car, I have a few more things to figure out, so let's get on to the next task. Meanwhile, I have a couple of fun parts to switch out on the car itself, including the stainless steel shorty header. Shiny. But perhaps even more exciting than that, thermostat housing. I'll explain why. So the manifold that I have on here right now is actually already a factory upgrade manifold. The original ones on these cars actually had a heat stove right here, right under the carburetor to help it warm up on cold winter days. But as you can imagine, warm air isn't the most efficient thing for a carburetor. So this is called a sprint manifold, and it doesn't have that. So this is already a cool thing to have. The only real advantage on that header is that the center two ports are separated. Well, let's be honest, it's mostly because it's shiny. On the thermostat housing, the problem with this original one is that the temperature sensor bumps into the side draft intake manifold. So this new one addresses that by shifting everything towards the front of the car a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the old parts, show you a couple comparisons with the new ones, and then go ahead and install the new ones. Okay, so just like I was saying, the old manifold has the center two exhaust ports combined, so it gets really hot there. Whereas this new one, they're actually separated. So that should help things be a bit more balanced and not so hot. Same deal with the gaskets. Old one has them combined, and this new one is a bit of a better one with them separated. Nice little upgrade. Here's a pretty good visual on the thermostat housing to see how much further forward the sensor is going to be on the new one, so that should clear the new intake manifold nicely.
Before installing the new thermostat housing and water neck, I made a half-hearted attempt at polishing them up. They're just cast aluminum, so I wanted them to be a little bit shiny. Well, that looks pretty good, and it should give me the space I need to mount these intake manifolds. Speaking of the intake manifolds, I thought I might as well polish them up too while I have the buffer out. In the meantime, I got the new washer for the idle screw seal. I went ahead and replaced the idle screw itself too because the old one looked like the tip was a bit worn out. Next up, some new hardware went in on the front of both carburetors in order to fit velocity stacks. This is a velocity stack, and it serves a couple purposes. First and foremost, it looks cool, but also it smooths out the airflow coming in and increases the velocity, which is good for responsiveness, especially at low RPM.
So here's the latest mock-up of everything. One of the next things that I'm thinking about is throttle linkage. The previous owner actually supplied this custom-made one that was on his car before. Someone just made this out of a piece of aluminum and steel mixed together, and the throttle cable just comes through this and hooks up down here and just bolts right up to the manifolds. Not sure if I love it. It's not the prettiest thing in the world. So do I use this, or do I spend another $100 or so to get a nice proper linkage from Weber?
Well, I ended up spending about $25 on this giant 1/8-inch thick piece of L-shaped aluminum, so I can replace the rusty steel bracket with an aluminum piece, at least so everything will match. I don't know why I still haven't bought a Dremel. I just hacked away at it with a hacksaw and a dream, but sometimes that's all you need. If you just ignore the horrible scars from when my hacksawing went wrong, these turned out pretty good. Here's a mock-up of how these are going to look on the car. Now it's time to put all these brass fittings back into the manifolds, and yeah, I might have polished them a bit. I have no idea what brand these manifolds are or where they came from, but someone clearly modified them before. I'm curious what all these extra ports are for. Let me know if you have any ideas. With the manifolds back on the engine, let's mount the carbs. They came with these soft mounts, which consist of a plastic spacer and 2 rubber O-rings on each mount, and it's supposed to absorb some of the vibration of the engine running so the fuel doesn't bubble in the fuel bowls. I don't know how much of an issue this is. Let me know in the comments if you know of a better way of mounting these, but for now, these should work. As nice as these carburetors are looking, I started to think, do I really need a heater in California? These hoses are kind of cramping my style. So, off they came. That looks pretty good. Now it's time to deal with the crankcase ventilation. Inside the valve cover and underneath this cover is some stainless steel mesh that's another step of filtration for the oil vapors. I'm just going to leave that alone. My plan here is to tap pipe threads into both holes so I can put a filter on the big one and plug the small one. This will allow it to breathe. Since I had all the sandpaper and polishing supplies out, I figured I might as well see if I can get a better shine on the valve cover. This aluminum valve cover originally came only on the Opel GT. The Manta and other models got a stamped steel cover, which was pretty plain, so this is a pretty popular upgrade.
By the way, a little project I did off camera was to install some proper gauges in here. So now I have an oil pressure gauge instead of a dummy light, a coolant temperature gauge that actually tells me what the temperature is, and importantly for this video, an air-fuel ratio gauge. This essentially uses a sensor in the exhaust, much like a modern car, and it tells me if I have the right ratio of fuel at any given moment. So that's going to help a lot with tuning these carburetors.
Now it's finally time to replace the throttle cable. The old one just unclips from the gas pedal here, and then it can be pulled through the firewall. Luckily for me, the guy I bought these carburetors from included a cable that seems to have all the right Opel specific mountings on it. At least it's one less thing I have to research and figure out. I used a jack handle to push the gas pedal all the way down so I could figure out where full throttle is, so I could hook up the cable to the linkage accordingly. And I got a little bit ahead of myself and tried to fire up the car without making any initial adjustments. Finally, I noticed something that's been wrong this whole time, and looking back at old pictures, it was wrong for the previous owner too. This little lever is how you equalize the two carburetors, and it needs to be in between the spring and the screw. With this corrected, I can do an initial setup. This involves taking off the progression hole covers so I can look at the throttle plates and adjust the balance lever so both throttle plates are in the same position. In this case, about halfway covering the first progression hole. With that done, and with all the idle mixture screws adjusted the same, 1.5 turns out, let's go for a start. After making some more tweaks to the mixture screws, the air-fuel ratio was looking pretty good. For my final adjustment, I borrowed this synchrometer, which is a cool little airflow meter that you stick into the throat of both carburetors to measure the airflow, and basically adjust the balance lever until they're the same. Lastly, I got these little screen filters, just so I don't suck a bunch of dirt or rocks into the engine. There's probably better filters out there, and let me know your suggestions, but with this done, let's take this thing for a drive.
Let's fire this thing up. Let's go for a little drive. One thing I've already noticed is it doesn't really like light throttle when you're just cruising around. The carbs spit a little bit. That's probably a timing thing since I don't have the vacuum advance. Well, let's go up a little curve. That makes good noises. Oh, that's great. Oh, that sounds so good. Oh, the throttle response is good. Oh, that's fun. The thing is, it makes me want to go full throttle all the time so I can hear that sound. Is it actually any faster than it was before? Well, not really. Not right now, at least. I'm sure I have more adjustments to make and more tuning and get the vacuum advance hooked up on the distributor. I think that's pretty important, so probably do that. But I'm looking at my AFRs. They're actually pretty good. I'm hovering between 12 and 14 most of the time, so actually in the right range for air fuel. Oh, that's fun. It sounds good. Oh, man. Yeah, I like it.
sort of in the habit of shifting around 4,000 RPM because there's really not much power above there. And that's all because I still have the stock camshaft. I'm not too mad about it though, because the car's still really drivable at lower speeds around town. It's responsive in the low to mid range, which most of the time that's where you can actually use it in the real world. So I think it's pretty good. Yeah, they're really good at converting gasoline into noise. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's already a pretty loud exhaust, so combining the two, it's a rowdy car. With all of its 100-ish horsepower. Hey man, it's fun to drive a slow car fast. Make lots of noise. Was this a practical upgrade? Absolutely not. Is it fun? Yep. So did I answer the question? Double the carburetors? Does that equal double the fun? I think it might. I think it might. Well, that was a lot of fun. I think I've added a lot more personality to the car. Have I made it better? Well, that's kind of subjective. It's louder, slightly quicker, stinkier, thirstier, but I don't know, it's pretty fun. I think there's still a lot I can improve on, and I want to hear from you guys. Was this a terrible idea or a great idea? And what could I do to improve it? What I do know for sure is I do want to add a vacuum manifold so I can actually make use of the distributor vacuum advance. It's pretty important, so I may do a follow-up video on that, as well as any other fine-tuning things. In any case, this has been a fun ride. There's more to come. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you next time.